Assume you're ready to go. All good. Well, it's fantastic to be here in my hometown at Bell Bay, here at Bell Bay Aluminium with Leader Peter Dutton and Deputy Leader Susan Lee, as well as colleagues Ted O'Brien and Susan McDonald. We've just had a tour here of the facility, important industry here in northern Tasmania, and important, for our leadership to come here and hear about the important work that's being done here at Bell Bay Aluminium. Susan might like to say.
Well, many thanks, Bridget. Thank you for your strong representation of northern Tasmania, along with colleagues in this part of Australia. I have really appreciated the opportunity to have a look through the facility. Bell Bay Aluminium has shown us the importance of this facility, not just for manufacturing in Tasmania, but for jobs. Over 500 people employed here. And with 35% of the input costs of this facility being energy price is critical, which is why Mr Albanese's broken promise, $275 reduction in the cost of electricity for households and businesses, would really hit home here. So once again, thank you, Bridget. It's terrific that the Shadow Cabinet is fanning out across northern Tasmania, and we're talking to small businesses, we're talking to industries, we're talking to members of the community. We're very busy for a couple of days, and we really appreciate that opportunity to listen, to learn, to understand, and to be determined and focused in our strong representation of your people. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you very much to Bridget, who's just a fantastic local member, and she's got an incredible reputation as a hard worker and somebody that stands up for her community and for Tasmania as well, and there's no better example of that than here at Bell Bay. Just want to say thank you very much to Lee and to Lou for showing us around the site. It's an incredible infrastructure and asset of the local community here. It of course employs hundreds of people directly, but about 1,000 people indirectly, and that's why Bridget is such a big advocate of what happens here in this local community. We're also going to have a chance to catch up with Gavin Pearce whilst we're here in Tassie, and many other businesses and business leaders and community leaders. And it's part of our getting out of Canberra and listening to the situation that's facing their small business and the situation that's facing their families. And predominantly that's the issue of cost of living. There are very significant issues facing Australians, and those issues will only compound over the next couple of years. And what I worry about is that Labor is going to make a bad situation worse. And as Susan pointed out, Mr Albanese promised at the last election on 15 separate occasions, including in Tasmania, that he would reduce the household electricity price by $275, and he's now broken that promise. And he's provided no explanation as to why he won't honour the promise that he gave to the Australian public before they voted for him in May of this year. But it is going to have a detrimental impact on families, on their budgets, and it comes at a time when their mortgage is increasing, and when their grocery bill is going up, and when their gas bill is going up, and when they're paying more and more at the Bowser as well. So they're the issues that you hear from Australians on the ground, and I'm looking forward to our engagement here in Tasmania, and I'm happy to take any questions.
It's been former Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews just called Scott Morrison to resign from Parliament. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese approved appointing himself to 5 additional portfolios between March 2020 and May 2021. Do you agree?
Well, a couple of points in relation to this issue. Obviously, Scott Morrison's made some comments on radio this morning, and I'd just point you to those comments which put into context some of the decisions that he made when he was Prime Minister. Prime Minister Albanese's announced that he's seeking advice from the Solicitor General, which he expects to get back on Monday, and he's announced this process that he's put in place. So I think, frankly, it's time for cooler heads to prevail. The Prime Minister's come out of his holiday swinging, and obviously this is an issue that he'll get his teeth into, but there are bigger issues that, frankly, the families of Australia are dealing with at the moment. So let's wait for the Prime Minister's process, and we haven't seen the legal advice back from the Solicitor General, but the former Prime Minister Morrison has made comment this morning to put into context. And I think the Prime Minister is now no longer the opposition leader, he's the Prime Minister. His job is to lead this country. And normally these sort of attacks, these individual attacks on members of Parliament on the other side are normally left to the head kickers within the Labor Party, but the Prime Minister has rolled his sleeves up on this and he sees political advantage, but at the time that he's concentrating on this, he's not explaining to the Australian public how it is that they're going to be able to pay their bills, and they're worried under this government that the bad situation is being made worse by this Labor government.
Will you be encouraging the former Prime Minister to resign though?
No, I won't, and I've been clear in my comments yesterday where I dealt with this issue. When you look at the situation that we first faced in February or March of 2020, I'd come back from the United States and I was diagnosed with COVID a few days later. I was admitted to hospital at that stage, and I went into the infectious disease ward like many other Australians did at the time. I spent about 27 or 28 days in isolation at the time, which was the norm for Australians. There was no vaccination. We were looking at significant deaths coming out of Europe and out of North America, and it was a very difficult situation. The NSC at the time was advised in relation to setting up morgues adjacent to public hospitals. We had done up plans within Home Affairs to deploy police and army personnel to turn people away from emergency departments. That was the context in which the former Prime Minister, as he explained this morning, made some of the judgments that he did. But as I say, the Prime Minister sought legal advice. I think we're better to wait for that legal advice before you make any decisions about what should occur next. Well, I've dealt with that issue. Yeah. Just take. I texted with him yesterday. I haven't spoken to him.
The public have been told about Scott Morrison's addition.
Well, mate, I've answered. I think I've answered that issue. So.
You would all expect there'll be violent protests for Scott Morrison.
Well, again, I've dealt with that issue. So, if there are any other issues about Tasmania, about well, no, and as I said, the Prime Minister has sought legal advice. He gets that legal advice back Monday, and there's a process that's in place. So I think we should respect that process, and let's see what the Prime Minister is able to advise next week. Well, I just think the Prime Minister's now set up a process. He's asked for legal advice, and we should wait for that legal advice.
Is it conducive to a healthy democracy?
Well, again, if you look at the way that Labor was describing the start of this pandemic and that the Liberal Party was describing this pandemic and leaders all over the world, it was a warlike situation. And there was concern about what would happen as Prime Minister Morrison pointed out this morning. There was concern as to what would happen. I think I was the first case in the shadow cabinet, in the cabinet at the time, and I was sent to hospital, and people were on ventilators and people were dying at that stage, and that's the context in which the Prime Minister at the time, Mr Morrison, made some of those decisions, and that's as he's explained it this morning. And I wasn't aware of the decisions. I wasn't there for the decision making in that regard, and I think he's made statements this morning that you can reflect on.
If you became Prime Minister, would you publicise additional portfolios?
Well, I'm not getting into hypotheticals, and I think it's very hard for anybody to speculate beyond what is publicly known now, and the Prime Minister's got a process set up, which I think is the appropriate thing to do, and we'll wait to hear back on that. Well, I'm the opposition leader, right? And the joy of being the opposition leader is that I'm not in government. The Prime Minister's announced a process. He's waiting on that legal advice, which they'll get back next week, and I would wait for the legal advice. I would wait for the legal advice, which is what this Prime Minister's commissioned, and we should wait for it to come back. But as I say, as I move around the country, I can tell you the number one issue that people are raising, it's cost of living, and people are really struggling with a combination of higher mortgage payments, of higher electricity prices, of higher gas prices, and of increasing prices right across their household budget. That's what they're dealing with. Okay.
Last question, guys.
When do you intend to speak to Scott Morrison?
Well, I texted with him yesterday, as I said, and but I've made clear my situation during the course of this in the early stages, and I detailed all of that yesterday. All right. No,
Do you know if anyone else in the party was aware of it aside from
no, I wasn't, and no, I don't.
Who's your
All right,
right?
thank you very much.